Friends, we all know that the need of the hour today among the global economy is signing up the free trade agreements. And, India is sitting in the middle of such free trade agreements. In fact, a lot of countries are signing different kinds of FTAs with different countries. Recently, couple of months back, India signed up with Australia, and we were actually waiting for a major free trade agreement between India and UK as a Diwali gift, which now is not likely to happen. So, why it is so, and why we are going to miss out this deadline of Diwali 2022? Let us find out. Well, first of all, we need to understand what is a free trade agreement. Free trade agreement is an agreement between two nations which allow the subjects or the citizens of both respective countries to trade freely. And when we say trade freely, that means there are tax havens, and the import duty is less, and there is less paperwork, and there are different thresholds defined so that the traders on business people on both sides can, without any major obligations, start dealing with each other. Now, the free trade agreements are much more complicated matter just simply signing off on a trade agreement, because the FTAs have to be backed up by proper legal support, proper infrastructure, and also proper IT infrastructure support, etc. And the free trade agreement also define the extent to which the freedom is provided and where the freedom is not provided. So it's a big thing, and signing up a free trade agreement between large economy is going to be much more relevant. India has surpassed UK, as we all know, as per the IMF, that in terms of the size of the economy, but UK is also substantially large globally. So if there is a free trade agreement between UK and India, the business people, business community on both sides will get a lot of freedom to have some sort of collaboration between each other going. And India being a very large market, the UK companies can invest, can bring in their funds, set up manufacturing units in India, and India can hire the trained experts from UK on salaries and all that. So there are more opportunities. I mean, as a consumer market also, India can produce a lot of these high-end equipment at a lower cost for the British companies. So although India has signed up a FTA with Australia, but then Australia is yet smaller compared to the size of UK economy and Indian economy. Both are fairly large, and there is a lot of history which goes in both the countries. So if there is a FTA signed, then there are new opportunities being created, and that is why we need an FTA. However, this FTA is not going to happen very soon, although earlier it was projected about 6 months back that the modalities of signing the FTA between UK and India is being done, and both governments are very happy and they want to do it. But I think there are two chronic points at which this sign off is stuck. One is the data localization, which is a huge issue. I mean, in today's context, if you look at the EU and also the Australia, I mean, if you look at different countries, they are giving the data localization the priority. And why data localization? Let me just discuss localization very briefly. Localization actually means that the data of people of that country remains within the country. Because if it does not remain within the country, then it goes out of the legal jurisdiction. So in case there is a misuse of data or misuse or anything against the privacy legal system, anything which is misused, then if the data is outside the country, then legal liabilities also shifted outside, and therefore you cannot prosecute a person who has done this kind of activity. So in other words, if data of an Indian citizen is taken out of India, out of the boundaries of India, and then misused from there, then that person who misuses that data cannot be prosecuted. So that is why most country wants to do data localization. That means protecting the data of their citizen and their own data. They want to keep it within their country in the data server, which is located physically inside that country, because the legal liability can be then ascertained. So that is why the data localization is very important. Look at EU. EU has recently passed a resolution. EU consists of multiple countries, so to speak, at least 12 to 15 countries are there. So collectively they have passed a resolution about data localization and enforcing that on the companies like Facebook and Apple, etc., and also Google. And the EU do not want their citizen data to go out to a US server. So that is why it is a very big issue. And since UK has moved out of EU, we all know that UK is not part of EU. So now what the UK company is wanting to do, or UK government is wanting to do for their company, for their private sector or government sector, is that they want to utilize the Indian consumers' behavior, and in order to do this, they have to take the data out and run from their own servers, which probably are in UK. And this is where the whole deal stopper is coming, because Indian government doesn't want any sort of compromise on this aspect. The second big ticket item, which is not yet resolved, is the involvement of UK companies in ability to bid for government contracts. So very briefly, I would like to tell you that the Indian government does not allow any foreign entity to bid for their projects. That is number one. So even if you hear companies like IBM, companies like Microsoft bidding for government of India contracts here in India, but these companies are mandated to form Indian companies. So while IBM is bidding for Indian government contracts, but they are actually bidding from their Indian companies, and the legal aspect of forming an Indian company is that the majority shareholding will be with the Indian citizens. So this is how the Indian government is ensuring that it is not the East India Company comes back again and acquire most of their assets, just like what China is doing in Pakistan. So India doesn't want those kind of things to happen, and therefore the other bottleneck from the UK standpoint is that they don't want to do this activity of setting up Indian companies. They want to be able to bid for Indian government projects directly, which has never happened in India, and that is where the showstoppers are happening in signing the FTA, which is the data privacy, data localization disagreement, and also how you can bid for large mega projects which will come from the Indian subcontinent, especially in the government sector, and how the UK companies will benefit. I think these are the two bottlenecks which are not yet resolved. And the third factor which is also affecting the relationship between two countries, which is UK and India, is that the implementation of Migration and Mobility Partnership, MMP it is called. This ensures that in case of any overstay of visa or political amnesty, somebody has run off, especially in the case of India. Let me talk about that. If people like these defaulters like Malya and similar people who have been convicted, or some inquiry needs to be done in India to find out by the authorities here what has really gone wrong, or in case there is something has gone wrong, these people should be returned back to India. So this implementation has failed miserably from the standpoint of India, because none of those people have been able to come back to, or return to India by UK. So in other words, that so there is a bit of sourness, and if UK and India, even though they have implemented a friendly policy which says that in case there is people that is required or convicts which are required, then UK will return these people freely. That has not happened, and that is why there is little bit of sort of disengagement in both the countries, because this obviously MMP is not really working from the Indian standpoint. So India is saying that return those people who have done something wrong to our nation, and we want to try as per the legal norms, whereas UK is dilly-dallying on that and not doing that, even though there is a signed agreement of cooperation in that area. So this is the third angle, which is not directly related to signing off the FTA, but this is impacting the relationship between two countries. All right. The fourth factor is that the previous Prime Minister, Mr. Boris Johnson, was in favor of signing up very quickly the economic deal with India. In fact, his administration signed $1 billion pounds rather, which is almost like $1.5 billion contract of specific nature with Indian companies. So this is something which was signed by him, and now he's out of the picture. There is a new administration being formed. There is a new political system which is in place, and that is again, so that means the political system has to catch up to where Mr. Boris Johnson and his team was. So I think that is why there has been a delay, or there has been some sort of adjustment which is going on politically from the UK standpoint. But in India, nothing has changed. The Indian stand remains the same, because data privacy, data localization has been a chronic issue for everyone. So in my opinion, how you can expect that we will open up our boundaries and allow the data to travel out of India and basically reside in the servers of UK. It is a impossibility, even if the UK government or administration feel that they will be able to convince India, which I feel it is not going to happen. That means if they are basing that we must allow data of Indian citizens to travel out of India, only then FTA will be signed, then in my opinion this is not going to happen. Secondly, participation of large deals which are happening out of India, and typically these are very large government opportunities. They want to be able to bid. That means Indian companies will be outbidded here. So if that is the case, then again this is something which is a false expectation, which is not going to happen. What they have to do is basically follow the foreign regulations which are implemented in India, set up Indian company, and then start bidding it. So if their expectation is that in the name of free trade they would like to meddle with the legal system of the Indian government, Indian policies, then it's a wrong expectation. This is not going to happen. And third thing is the UK is not implementing the MMP, which is returning of people who have done something wrong towards India, stolen money, stolen the exchequer. They must be returned as quickly as possible after the due process. So I think there has been a lot of dilly-dallying in that. So I think that is why this FTA, which was supposed to be a remarkable agreement, sort of a milestone in improving the global economy, is going to be delayed now. And because of these three chronic issues, the stalemate has come, and therefore we will not see this free trade agreement between UK and India signed up quickly until unless these three major items on the table are sorted out. Basically, UK to agree to Indian legal system and Indian understanding the way Indian government works, that will help them to quickly come on the table, negotiation table, and close this deal. So friends, I wanted to talk about this in our live stream today in terms of business. If you have any opinion and you have anything or any observation, especially if you're following the FTA between UK and India, feel free to send in your comments. I will meet you tomorrow with more thought-provoking business ideas, tips, tricks, and more information. Please take care, and I will catch you tomorrow again. Bye bye.